Hello there, guys. Welcome back to another episode of E&Ftv. Today we are joined by the brilliant Khristina Ridge, Group Revenue Manager at JMK Group. Khristina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a million for having me, Tom.
It's obviously we've been in contact for a little while now. Obviously, I appeared on Revenue Hack, so it's great to finally get you on the show. What we generally like to sort of start with is understanding a bit more about you, your background, how, of course, you discovered revenue management, and, of course, obviously, what your current role is now. So it'd be great to understand a bit more about you. So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, actually, my background is science and maths. Believe it or not, I actually have an honours degree in maths and chemistry from a college here in Galway, and I'm also a qualified teacher. Never really took off. I was studying to do a PhD and I needed cash, just like every other student, so I took a job as a receptionist in a hotel. Never went back. Needless to say, the PhD is just still sitting there on the sideline for a rainy day. My mother is still devastated by this, but you know, I absolutely love it. I loved meeting people, chatting with people, helping people. I'll never forget the first time I sold a room that we actually cleaned on the day and resold again. It was like the busiest time in Galway. Race week, it's like chocolate, almost like Royal Ascot and Wimbledon all in one for Galway. And it's that one time of the year we could make money. I remember selling it for like 400 quid. I was like, this is amazing. And then flash forward a few years after kind of in revenue roles and front office roles, I took a revenue management role in Maldron Hotel in Smithfield. A very good friend of mine, Anne-Marie, took a very big chance on taking me on board and it worked out very, very well. I was with Delata for almost 5 years and then moved to Best Western Hotels and Resorts, where I was actually an international revenue and systems manager for them outside of North America. Really cool job, got to travel all the time, got to meet some amazing people. I've got some really nice friends in Turkey, great hoteliers in Turkey, Brazil, different parts of South America, Australia, you name it, we've got them all. And I still keep in touch with everyone. And now I've been with JMK for over a year and a half. It's been interesting because obviously it's just family owned. We're a very small operation, although we do have a number of hotels, and I oversee revenue, sales and e-com for all the hotels that we have, including the new builds that are coming up soon.
I was going to say, from our conversations in the past, your role is incredibly varied. I know it says Group Revenue Manager, but really it's more like sort of almost a commercial director / manager / hey, I do this, that and the other. Incredible person you are. Obviously, some of the things that we've spoken about in the past on actually Revenue Hacks, but also in our own discussions, has been sort of the training and development of, I suppose, revenue managers, but also wider revenue management teams, and getting more people to understand how it all works. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, rather than just having one person understanding it or one person dealing with it? What are your thoughts?
I think revenue has changed. We've seen this because of COVID-19. And I think how people operate has changed completely because of COVID-19. And I think hotels have realized that it's not just one person anymore that's in control. It's actually a multitude of people. And you and I have touched on this before when you were on Revenue Hacks, and even in the past in our own conversations. Your front office team are your salespeople. They are revenue people. They know what business is coming in and what business is going out. They probably can even tell you the rates that some of the bookings are coming in at. You know, these guys are amazing. And I think we should be focusing a lot more on trying to actually train these people and bring them through the ranks, bring them through reservations, making them realize that revenue is actually fun. Revenue is fun. I love it. I love finding that biting point to the customer, even if it's just by £1 and knowing, oh God, I've put it too far. I'm not going to pick up anything again. You know, and it's a skill that we have. It's no longer, as Suzanne from Revenue Hacks would say, it's no longer a dark arts. And it can be very cool. We're not these geeks that sit behind Excel sheets and computers all day and tell you to go away. If that's a revenue manager in your property, you need to say to them they're not doing the right job because they're not training you and developing you.
Yeah.
And I think it should be shown how to read daily reports, how to even make the daily reports. That actually saves time for someone who's in a director role or a revenue manager role, and actually get these people more in tune with what's going on in the property, because at the end of the day, they will feel valued. They'll feel that they're learning, and you won't have to try and get new staff all the time. You know, staff retention will be quite high in your property rather than, you know, actually constantly stream of hotels. I used to always say that the hotel door, especially revolving doors, are there for the staff, not for the guests to come in, which is a very unfortunate thing that we're in our roles. But if you look at me, for example, I've hopped through a multitude of properties up until maybe my late 20s, because I didn't feel like I was learning enough. I didn't feel like I was, being respected. I didn't feel that, the team had my best interests at heart. Whereas when I moved to Delata, that's when everything changed. I realized, wow, this company do know what they're doing. This company do want me to train. They involved, a lot of training and development, and it's been the same the whole way through since my other jobs.
I think it's something, as you said, we've spoken about on a number of occasions, and that's the training and development, but also building awareness of revenue management and where it is now. I think so many people have this perception of it's a numbers game, it's techie, I don't get it, I'm like where I am at, it's too far apart from where I'm sort of sitting at the moment. And the gap to get to revenue management, we just have to work a little bit harder at making that just that ever so slightly easier to get into. Because I know there are so many reservations managers that would love, and I know that there'll be people sort of liking and commenting below about this, but they would love to get into revenue management, but they just feel it's unobtainable. It's so far from what they are used to, and they don't have the sort of management that will actually give the time, effort to train, develop, even if it is just getting them involved in certain meetings, GM meetings, weekly meetings, understanding how those conversations work. It all starts somewhere. And I completely agree with you. I think it needs to happen, and especially the way the role is moving. If we don't adapt, we won't have these great dynamic commercial, or I suppose wider commercially minded individuals. We're just not going to be able to cultivate them.
I think it also comes down to the colleges though as well. That's one big focus. You and I have touched on this before.
Yeah.
There's only, in textbooks for hotel and catering colleges, there's only 2 pages to revenue management.
Yeah.
2 pages. That doesn't give you everything. That means you have to rely on the likes of Cornell and all the other learning areas to actually be able to develop yourself. And it's sad. Whereas, our role is, let's put it this way, because of COVID-19, the majority of revenue managers have been protected. It's mainly salespeople that have been let go.
Yep.
And when you look at it in that way, it shows that it's a niche role, but also that there needs to be focus on actually getting people more interested in it from a college perspective and from a learning perspective than actually being in property.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's interesting. I had the pleasure, privilege, and I suppose honor, of being on a committee with I won't name the university, but it was a hospitality uni, or a university that has a very sort of specialized area of hospitality anyway. And I was on a committee to actually review their hospitality and hotel management course. And one of the biggest glaring things at me was that the revenue management piece was very much a 1.5, maybe 2-page part. And you could almost hop, skip and jump without even realizing. And that was a big thing. And I have been a massive advocate of raising awareness in colleges, universities, but also just, I suppose, more junior ends of staff. Just, this is what hospitality can offer. It's not all front desk, it's not all restaurant, it's not all this or that. There's so much more to it. And that's the awareness that I think we need to be working on as ambassadors for our own industry. I think it's massively important. In terms of sort of your view on technology, so I know again it's something that you're very passionate about, and it's something that we've spoken about before, but also obviously you guys have spoken about on Revenue Hacks quite a lot. What do you see happening with the tech side of things over the next year, but also I suppose longer term, sort of 5 years? What are your views?
So I think what's really interesting is that people now have realized more than ever that we can be mobile. And I think that's quite crazy. We've had phones for years. We've had iPhones for years. We dream and wait for the next phone to come out. How is it that we're not like that with technology for properties? I understand it can be expensive. However, it's a great investment in your property. So I do think everyone's going to go towards mobile technology in the next year for sure. There's a big push on mobile key entry, keyless entry, especially because of obviously sanitation. I think there's been a few companies in the past that have been pushing, online check-in, that have these online check-in hubs that never really worked out quite well. You'll see them actually come up a lot more in the year. I think over the next 5 years, you'll find that international brands in particular will actually start to do check-in through their app for sure. If they don't, I'll be questioning that in 5 years' time. And I think the independent properties actually have a better chance of winning the technology race, because there's just so much technology out there. So many great technology innovators out there who are actually doing really good deals for people right now, that they can actually get ahead and get that foot ahead. I think how the consumer shops is just going to completely change. Obviously, we've seen the booking window 0 to 1 day, 0 to 7 days in some parts of the countries at the moment. I think that will stay. I don't think people will be making long-range plans for the next 3 to 4 years, for sure. So I think we need to be looking at our optimization of what we're doing now for the next 3 to 4 days. Obviously not liquidating ourselves. I think you know me by now, I don't condone on the day discounts at all. No matter what the OTAs say, you don't do it. But you know, it's how you can capture that guest. And it's also a big focus as well on digital marketing. What we can do in the digital world to actually help put the guests at ease and also market your hotel, because it's no longer this is my brochure, this is who I am, this is the flyer, come see me. It's actually more of an emotional connection with the guest. We've been saying this for almost 2 years, but now you can see it with Instagram, TikTok, Reels, YouTube, everything. Everyone has a video. And you know, Google actually started this virtual video 5-6 years ago, and now everybody is doing it on all the different platforms. And it's about kind of getting that guest sucked into why they should stay with you, not just putting pictures up of London, Dublin, Dubai, or anything like that saying, come stay with us. That doesn't work anymore. Even if you're a brand new hotel, that just doesn't work anymore, because people want to know that they have people working behind the desk that are like-minded, that believe in the same values that they do, that actually have the same thought process of what they do. And I think that's going to be very interesting, especially as social media actually develops a lot more. You know, WeChat will come available here in Europe in the next while, guarantee you. And if you don't have it already, I've got Weibo already. You can translate it into English, which is great, but you can actually see how China is just so miles ahead of us. You know, if you look at Ctrip, they're on WeChat and Weibo, so you can actually buy your hotel, your flights, absolutely everything on one area in one click. Yeah. It's almost like an OTA, but you know, it is an OTA, but you know, it's right at your fingertips.
Sure. I think this is the thing now as well, is I think the expectation of a customer is a lot more, they're a lot more savvy for one, you know, everything is a deal. They'll look for anything they possibly can, obviously comparing everybody to each other, but they're also becoming, I suppose, their experience with let's say the Amazon experience anyway, their experience of this sort of thing, they almost are expecting it to translate into our hospitality industry, our airline industry, but it's sort of trying to find where those people will actually come in. And as you said, there are certain regions of the world that are a lot more advanced than us right now, but we can see the capability is there. And obviously the want and the desire is there from the customer. Anything to make a customer's experience easier from the front to the back end is going to be nothing but a winner. I suppose it's just finding those sort of companies that are already innovating in that area. And I suppose whoever gets there and gets there to a good standard first wins.
Exactly. But it's a bit strange to think that the first ever hotel website for a chain actually only happened in 1994. So, you know, you can see that we are so far behind in the curve when it comes to like how we develop even property websites. It's not that expensive to develop a property website and to actually keep it going and keep it optimizing, even if you're using WordPress. And that was actually Hyatt hotels. And it's actually crazy to think as well, the first like PMSs that actually came out in the 80s are actually legacy systems that are still in use now because they're cheap and people find that they're easy to use. We as humans, we're not partial to change. However, you know, if you look at it, you change your phone every 6 to 9 months as soon as there's a new phone out. So why aren't we changing how we think about our own technology in a property? Like I said, there's so many good deals out there. You can get so many free trials out there to figure out what's the right fit for you. And I definitely think people should be using that now and not to be afraid with commitment to actually paying money towards this, because it's going to help your business at the end of the day.
Yeah, the return on investment's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was actually speaking to an airline specialist last week on an episode which will be airing soon. But what he was actually touching on, very similar to what you were saying, the tech side of things, he was sort of looking at the argument of, are the big sort of dinosaurs like Ideas and Duetto and these guys, are they really the ones to go with? Or should we now be considering the younger up-and-comings, not maybe even some startups? But as you said, they are a lot more dynamic in what they're doing. They're a lot more sort of, I suppose, active right now. Whereas the bigger sort of corporates are almost sort of, well, you know, we're developing this software. And don't get me wrong, they've obviously done an incredible job and they've got their place. But there's surely got to be a market right now with so much disruption for these young kids on the block to come and bring something new. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree with that, 100%. Look at dinosaurs like Ideas and Duetto, they're great. Ideas is creme de la creme. It's like off-road PMS, creme de la creme, you know, but when you actually go and buy creme de la creme, it comes at a massive price tag. It really and truly does. And Duetto is a little bit cheaper than it. However, it does have its flaws. Just like every system, it has its flaws. I do believe now, when we've touched on just the revenue hacks, now is the time for technology to really listen to what hoteliers want and optimize itself. Muse is a very big example, especially in Europe. Big player came out of nowhere, startup. Richard and Gregory, absolutely fantastic guys, and they went into this product with the thought of, we were hoteliers, we know what hoteliers want, and they done really cool APIs, opened everything, and people were able to integrate. However, it does come with the however that, you know, it does come at a cost for that provider. And although it's cheaper than in a traditional PMS for people, some people just aren't into going into cloud just yet. I think people don't trust the cloud, whereas I'm like AWS all the way. And if you have AWS, it's one of the most reliable clouds that's there to be able to push it. And a lot of people are using it now. It's getting even bigger here in Ireland. Yeah. I would go with startups because they understand the market right now. They're cheaper. They are a startup as well. So you need to actually go out with a proper RFP on what you want, what you need, and what you can get for the price tag that you're willing to pay. Because you could go and invest in a new system that won't do everything. You know, sales managers are great. They tell you it's the bells and whistles. It's got everything you need. When you actually go to use it, it doesn't have that. So you need to get proper demos, sit down and actually spend time with this. You know, you need to actually immerse yourself into this 110%. Don't go with something just because it sounds great on paper and it looks great on paper, and it's cheaper than what the original product you want, because sometimes the original product you want is probably the best one for you.
And as you said, there's so many free trials out there. There's so many ways of investigating these areas of tech. There's absolutely sort of almost no reason that you shouldn't be testing out different ways of doing things and finding the one that's right for you and your business, because obviously it's all relative at the end of the day. Obviously, it'd be good to understand what's been happening with you guys. Obviously, JMK, what's been happening, you know, I suppose during this pandemic, but also what you've got coming up, what you've got going on.
So believe it or not, we were actually one of the very few that opened a property during the pandemic. We opened a Hampton by Hilton London Ealing. It was the first one in the UK of the new generation, first one in Europe of new generation, and second one in the world. So it's been very strange. I've been stuck here in Dublin. I can't even fly to the UK. So the last time I was there was late February, early March. It was still a building site. Some of the stuff was still there, you know, the PPE, everything was there, but, you know, I didn't get to get that feel. And now I'm looking at it virtually, just like everybody else. So it's so strange. But the hotel is doing very well. It's actually quite, you know, it's very interesting to see how that market has developed compared to London Central. Sure. The year-on-year decline in Ealing and actually on the outskirts of London hasn't been as bad as what London Central has, because obviously it's been extortionate to stay in London for years. And we're also just going to start opening, or the prep work for opening 2 new properties here in Dublin early next year. So we're opening a Hampton by Hilton in the forecourts, which is going to be amazing. I can't wait. We're going to have a coffee house right underneath it. You will find me there. That's going to be my new office for sure. Sitting at the coffee house, looking out at everybody passing by, a bit of entertainment in my day. And then we're opening a 421 bedroom Dublin airport property as well. It's a Holiday Inn. So that's almost complete. Hopefully we'll have that building back by late November, early December-ish, so we can start doing our work in the background. But it's all systems go. It's all building systems, making sure everything's okay. And it's just very exciting time for us.
That's amazing. That's amazing to have so much going on during all these crazy times, but a business positivity is always a good thing. And I'm definitely coming to visit you then, because that sounds like it's going to be amazing. And it gives me a good excuse to come to you and obviously visit Ireland for the first time ever, actually. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. I'll wait for your invitation.
Oh, you don't need to wait. Trust me. You can hop on a flight. We'll go for Guinness and a few gin and tonics. You'll be fine. I'll take care of you. I promise you.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Well, Khristina, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I know how busy you've been. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me on the E&Ftv.
Guys, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Make sure you stay tuned to see who's on next week's episode now.